Hello everyone on YouTube, it's Jordan here again, and today I want to talk about something really important. With a lot of people staying at home nowadays, there are people wanting to learn the keyboard. And you may have gone on Amazon and found cheaply made keyboards like the Rock Jam or J761. Don't buy those. This video is going to teach you what you should look for in a good keyboard. So, what are examples of bad keyboards? Well, there are plenty of examples of bad keyboards. Some are from verified developers, some are not. Examples of bad keyboards from verified developers are the Yamaha PSR E373 and the PSR E360. Their most popular keyboard is the PSR E363 for beginners, and even the PSR E263 is still viable. Another bad keyboard is the Farfisa G7, which is another knockoff. It's basically a knockoff of the Bontempi. Don't know what Bontempi keyboard it's the knockoff of, but I've seen that Bontempi keyboard, and I own a Bontempi keyboard. Of course, you've got your Rock Jam or J761, which is another cheap Chinese knockoff. It basically uses sounds from Yamaha's older keyboards, which are not in the public domain. They are copyrighted by Yamaha. No other keyboard manufacturer should be using those. There are exceptions with the sounds though. Yamaha says you can use them in your performances, but you can't use them, you can't class them off as your own sounds. And now I'm going to go over some good keyboards you can get. There's the PSR 220, which I've got. A really good keyboard it's really good for beginners. I started off on the PSR 220 when I was a beginner, and now I'm an intermediate level keyboard player, and I've got the PSR 8000. Another good beginner level keyboard, and I personally like this keyboard. It's the PSR E363. Pretty nice keyboard. Another good beginner level keyboard, and I used to own this keyboard. It's the PSR E303. A lot of these are Yamaha keyboards. That's because Yamaha is brilliant when it comes to beginner level keyboards. Want a good beginner level Yamaha keyboard? Look no further than the PSR E series. But if you really want to learn keyboard, I highly suggest investing in the Yamaha EZ220. This keyboard came out back in mid-2012 and is still perfect, even in 2021. The EZ220 also has the free page turner application for iOS and Android, so you can use it with your phone. Let me just make sure I'm still recording. So there's an example of some good beginner level keyboards. But what if you're not a beginner level keyboard, and which keyboards are perfect for that kind of stuff? Let's go to intermediately level keyboards. So again, the PSR 220 can be used as an intermediate level keyboard if you use it properly, especially with the MIDI. The PSR E4, the E4 series with PSR E403, that'll still be around until the PSR E463. And then you've got your then you've got some older Yamaha keyboards like the PSR 1700 and the PSR 510. Both are good keyboards, by the way. You should check those out. I've not been on those physically, but I've seen them. I've heard the sounds coming out of those keyboards. And what about keyboards for young children? Again, Yamaha is perfect. The PSR E203 is a good starting keyboard for a young child. The PSR E203 right up until the PSR E273. These keyboards generally don't have touch response and are perfect for little hands and, well, just for child curiosity, as well as some other budget-friendly child keyboards, like the Rocktunes 37 key keyboard, which is really good. There's also the First Act Discovery, There are plenty of good keyboards out there. And now I'm going to go over what you should invest in when buying a keyboard. The first thing I want to talk about when buying a keyboard is, are the keys touch sensitive? Now, if you're an adult beginner, touch sensitive keys are very important. It gives you the feel of a piano. Now, let me give you an example of a touch sensitive keyboard. Listen to the sounds of these. Listen to the sound. Playing it at normal volume. But what if I press the key softly? The note is quiet. So that's basically an overview of touch sensitivity, and you can also change it. And I recommend you have it on the highest level of touch sensitivity, so that you can really show some expressiveness with the keyboard. There's a keyboard that does that really well, and that's the Yamaha PSR 215, which came out back in 1994. I mean, I've tried playing that keyboard, and the touch sensitivity on that thing, jeez. Next thing I want to go over on a keyboard, and this is really, really important, is reverb. Does the keyboard contain reverb? Now, what reverb is it's basically like you're in a hall. I'll give you an example. I don't think the camera will be able to pick it up, but I'll turn the keyboard up so that you can hear what reverb sounds like. Now, you might be able to hear those notes echoing, and if you can hear the notes echoing, that is basically what reverb is. And most keyboards with reverb allow you to change the settings of the reverb. If you're going for one of those cheap keyboards, like the clones, like the Rock Jam or J761, you're not going to get touch sensitive keys, and you're not going to get reverb on either of them. Not even any, no cheap keyboard on the market, especially a modern cheap Chinese keyboard, will come with this feature. And I own a few of those keyboards, and they are terrible, regardless of what is advertised. The next thing I want to talk about is the number of keys the keyboard has. Now, most beginner level keyboards have 61 or 49 keys. Very occasional one, you'll get high priced keyboards that have 76 keys. Don't get those if you're a beginner. Not only do they take up so much room, but I personally don't recommend you get a 76 keyboard regardless, because of the portability as well. I'm going to touch on portability later, but for now, just invest in a keyboard that has 61 or 49 keys. Of course, there are 88 key models, but if you're staying at home, just don't go for one. Budget-friendly keyboards like the PSR E363 are perfect for beginners at the moment, and the E363's got a lot going for it at the moment because it's still a brilliant keyboard, even in 2021. Anyway, next thing I want to talk about is can you carry the keyboard around with you? And this is in itself why I prefer some of these portable Yamaha keyboards. At minimum, 7 kilograms is good for a beginner level keyboard. I mean, they're easy to carry. 5 kilograms is also good. 5 to 7 kilograms. Most beginner level keyboards step into that price range. The PSR 220 here is 7 kilograms. And there are keyboards that are a lot lighter. Personally, I don't recommend going for those because they're generally those cheap knockoffs that I've been talking about. If you watch my video on the Rock Jam or J761, that keyboard weighs almost 1 kilogram and is generally cheaply made anyway. So, weight is a big important. Weight is a very important deciding factor when when looking for a keyboard. Again, we're talking about beginner level keyboards. Um, the next thing I want to cover is robustness. Now, occasionally keyboards are going to get dropped on gigs, and you want a keyboard that can withstand those drops should they occur. Now, again, Yamaha is perfect for these. The most you can get out of a drop are dented keys, but they'll eventually wear off. Keys can get dented on keyboards if they get dropped. That's not what you're going to get on a cheap Chinese keyboard. If they're dropped, the most you can expect from that is a ripped, cracked plastic chassis, missing keys, and the possibility of the keyboard not working. Now, I have seen this happen. I even experimented with the Rock Jammer J761 to test its robustness, and it isn't robust, despite what Rock Jam claims. So, robustness is a great deciding factor as well, and wear and tear on the keys as well. Will the keys wear down? Um, Personally, when I've played a lot of beginner-friendly Yamaha keyboards, I've not noticed any wear and tear on the keys. I mean, Yamaha is brilliant when it comes to build quality. I mean, even this keyboard that's almost 25-year old now, the PSR 220, that's got brilliant build quality. Only thing I've got wrong with this one is two keys don't work, but the keys you're not going to use anyway, so you can ignore those. Um, Another thing, and this is really important, is what features does the keyboard have? Most beginner level keyboards come with an education feature, and generally it's frowned upon, but it's perfect. I mean, most keyboards have 100 songs, especially with the beginner level keyboards. And your songs are important too. What songs are provided for the education? Um, Again, on a cheap keyboard, you're going to get unknown songs that are not from that are that are not suitable in a sense. They're songs that, well, if you want to know, just go check out my video of the Rock Jam or J761 demo songs video, and you'll get the gist of what I'm talking about. Ideally, a keyboard should have songs that everyone knows, and Yamaha is perfect for that. I mean, a good example of a keyboard with well-known songs is the PSR E363. Again, brilliant keyboard that has 112 demo songs altogether. And don't go investing in a keyboard with features that a beginner isn't going to use. I mean, like the PSR E463 would not be suitable because it has sampling. A beginner is not going to be able to use sampling, or may not want to use the DJ pattern mode. So now that I've touched on beginner level keyboards, what's available for the intermediate keyboards? Well, the PSR E463 is a brilliant intermediate level keyboard. It's basically an entry level keyboard because it's somewhere in between the beginner range and the intermediate range. But it's a brilliant keyboard regardless. Even pros can have fun with this keyboard. You get 235 rhythms, over 500 different sounds, 30 different songs, DJ pattern mode, sampling, USB capabilities, and the ability to connect to a computer. And my favourite part of the E463 is the sampling feature. although I don't use it, but I've seen it in use, and it's brilliant, especially for a keyboard in that price range. Another good intermediate level keyboard is the PSR 230. Again, it's basically an intermediate PSR 220 keyboard, same keyboard, with some beginner features in there like guide lamps. But you get music cartridges, and basically what they do is they expand the number of songs and the number of styles on the music on the keyboard. So some cartridges contain styles, some contain songs, and whatnot. The PSR 620 was another good intermediate level keyboard, and that had a floppy disk drive. And what that enabled you to do is you would have MIDI files, music files, song files on the floppy disk. You could copy them from your computer and put them on the disk, and you'd be able to play them on the keyboard. Omni files with a .mid extension would work. Rhythms were also downloadable to the keyboard that way too. And this keyboard is basically the entry-level version of the PSR 7000, which is a high-end keyboard. I'm going to go into high-end keyboards later. So now that we've looked at a couple of intermediate level keyboards, what should you look for in an intermediate level keyboard? Again, budget. I mean, the PSR E463 is a good example of a budget-friendly intermediate keyboard. I mean, I got mine for £249, so I'm not going to complain. And try looking for an older keyboard because you'll save money that way. Older intermediate level keyboards, such as this one on my right, are brilliant. The PSR 220 can be both classed as a beginner and an intermediate level keyboard because of its features. And the others are basically the same, touch sensitive keys. And oh yeah, that's another thing. This is for both beginner and intermediate. The maximum number of notes that the keyboard can play. The Rock Jam RJ761 keyboard, which is again a knockoff keyboard, is 16-note polyphonic. A beginner should only have 28 notes at minimum. And the 28 notes is also good for an intermediate level keyboard if you want to do some 16-bit arrangements of your favourite songs. I mean, the PSR 220 is a 16-note polyphonic. So, yeah, that's just basically it. Most intermediate level keyboards have stock reverb on them. And now we're going to go into the high-end keyboards. Now, there are a lot of high-end keyboards on the market, and they generally go from £500 to 100 or maybe even £2,000 depending on the keyboard. I mean, at the moment, the Yamaha Genos is the current high-end keyboard, and I believe it's priced around £2,000 maybe, estimately. It's still a brilliant keyboard. It's got a touch screen. The speakers come separate from the keyboard, so you have to connect those. The possibilities are almost endless with the Genos. And again, budget plays a role in high-end keyboards. I mean, if you want something like the PSR S models, then the cheapest you're going to get is the PSR S500, I believe. That was probably the first keyboard in its range. But regardless, you're still going to get USB. You're still going to get good sounds. You're still going to get a lot of rhythms. And you're still going to get a lot of effects, regardless of which PSR S series you buy. But the successors are the expensive PSR SX series. Again, I'm looking at Yamaha. You don't have to go for Yamaha if you want, but look for a keyboard along the lines of that, preferably from a verified brand. And yeah, those things I've considered there pretty good for buying a keyboard. So in summary, when buying a keyboard, look for the look for the look for these: touch sensitivity, the maximum polyphony, i.e., how many notes can be played at one time. Does the keyboard come with reverb? Number of features. Does the keyboard come with auto accompaniment? Are there learnable songs? So I hope this video has helped you in buying a keyboard and which keyboard you should buy. And let me know if this video helped you choose a keyboard or not. And why, and no, not why, which keyboard you chose from that. Remember, Amazon is a great place to shop for keyboards, but don't overdo it. There are keyboards that claim to have a lot of features, but they're not. Stay well away from those supermarket brand keyboards, which are generally sold on Amazon. Again, looking at the Farfisa G7 and the Medallier KX10. Anyway, this is Jordan signing off, saying have a good day, everyone.